Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. The topic is Send Pension Data, and this is part of our Pensions Discovery webinar series. My name's Duncan. I'm your host and presenter for the webinar today, and I am joined by my colleague Alice, who's standing by in the background, ready and waiting to answer any of your questions. Let's now take a look at what we'll cover in today's webinar. So we'll be looking at various different ways that you can send enrolment and contribution details to your pension provider. And we're starting by looking at Pensions Data Exchange, which is where you make a direct connection between your payroll software and your pension provider account. So you can then send the information in a similar way to how you would send details to HMRC. Once we've covered PDX, we'll run through some top troubleshooting tips for those of you using that, and then we'll move on to other ways to export and send pension data. And we'll demonstrate how to export CSV files by using custom reports that you'll be able to download from our help center. And then at the end of the webinar, we'll cover the further support that's available. We'll talk more about the Pensions Discovery digital badge, and you should hopefully have a final opportunity to ask any of your questions. But before we get into the content, I'm just going to run a quick poll on screen just to get some insight from our audience today. So just the one question, which I will launch on screen now. And we would like you to answer, who is your current pension provider? So you can select more than one if you work with more than one, but on that poll, you can select Nest, the People's Pension, Smart Pension, or Other. And we'll take a look at the overall results, and I'll explain a bit more about how that would affect how you send your pension data using the pensions module. So are you with Nest, People's Pension, Smart Pension, or Other? And we'll give you about another 10-20 seconds on that, and I will share out the overall results for anyone that might be interested in that. So we've got about 70% of the vote in. I'm now going to end that poll and just share the results with you. And as you can see there, we do have 50% of the audience today using Nest as their pension provider. 31% have selected People's Pension and 19% Smart Pension. And the good news for you guys is that those are the 3 pension providers that can use Pensions Data Exchange. So you'll be able to do that direct submission of your contributions and enrolments to your provider. But for the 40% of you who selected Other, do stay tuned, as we're going to cover how you can export files to import to a range of other pension providers using our bespoke reports. So hopefully something for everyone in today's session. So thanks for joining in that poll, if you got the opportunity. And let's get things started by taking a look at Pensions Data Exchange. Now, in order to use Pensions Data Exchange, you will need to be with a supported pension provider. So that would be Nest, Smart Pension, or People's Pension. In today's webinar, we're going to take you through a video demo of setting this feature up. And we're going to use Nest as the example, but be assured that the steps are very similar for the other supported providers. And we do have a comprehensive help center and a PDX hub, PDX being short for Pensions Data Exchange, where you can access further support. And if you're not with one of these supported providers, do stick with us, as we'll be looking at creating CSV files for any pension provider using our reports later on in the webinar. Now, before you're able to set up Pensions Data Exchange, there are a few things that you will need. So here's a quick checklist for you. You will need to have the pensions module with PDX activated. And we've got a link to an article that will help you work out whether or not you have Pensions Data Exchange already included. You'll need Sage account login details. So this is an email address and a password. and a way of authenticating your login, as it does now use two-factor authentication. You'll need to be with one of the supported providers and have your pension provider login details to hand. And an important note, if you are using Nest, your employee groups must be set up using the tax period option. So if you pay weekly, your groups need to be tax weekly on the Nest portal. If you pay monthly, they would need to be tax monthly. And a really quick way to check if you've got Pensions Data Exchange included in your current license is to go into your Pensions module settings and then look for the option either to set up Pensions Data Exchange or to log into the Management Center or manage your matched schemes. And you'll see more of this as we talk through our demo. So what I'm going to show you now is a video demonstration of how to set up Pensions Data Exchange. So I'm just going to bring that up on screen now. We'll just make that full screen for you as well. And I'm actually going to talk through these steps just to give you some insight into what's involved. So when it comes to setting up PDX, there are two stages involved in a setup. Step one is to register and set up Sage Pensions Data Exchange, which will involve signing in and creating your account on our online management center. And then the second step is signing in and updating your payroll, which is where you're going to link your payroll pension schemes to the pension schemes from your provider. So a reminder, you'll need Sage account login details and your pension provider account details. And we do recommend that you take a backup before you go ahead and complete these steps. So when you're ready, you would go to your company tasks, and then you would head over to your pensions module settings. And from these settings, if you've never set this up before, you'll see the option at the bottom to set up Pension Data Exchange. So we're going to go ahead and select that option. It'll then confirm the supported pension providers. To continue, you would click on to Next. And then you'll see the two steps that you need to complete. And similar to when you set up the pensions module initially, you'll need to use the Do It Now option to take you into each step. And then once you've completed it, you would mark it as done. So we'll start with step one to register and set up Sage Pensions Data Exchange. And you can see that takes you into a browser where you're then prompted to log in with a Sage account. If you don't already have one of these, you'll find links to create an account. And you will also need to set up an authentication method. So it might be receiving a text message with a code or using an authenticator app. Now for this demo, we already have an account. So we're going to log in with our email address and password. Then once that user had authenticated, that will then log them in to the Pensions Data Exchange Management Center. So that is then going to confirm the payroll company name that you're setting this up for. And there'll be a little tick in the box to create that company in the Management Center. So we're just going to go ahead and confirm that we want to go ahead and do that. And then within the Management Center, we'll then be able to start adding our pension accounts. Now to do this, you would select Manage Pension Accounts. And if this is the first one that you're adding, you would simply click on your provider's logo. Or if you've previously added other provider accounts, there'll be a little plus sign where you can add a new one. So for this demo, we're selecting Nest. You can enter your own bespoke description for this account. So if you're dealing with multiple payrolls, you might want to reference the actual company name for this. And then in the boxes underneath, we're going to enter the Nest employer ID, and then the user ID and the password that are used to log into our Nest online portal. And if you're with one of the other supported providers, you'll be prompted to kind of enter similar details in a screen like this. So once I've got all of that entered, I would click on to Save. It'll then confirm that we've added the details of our pension provider account, and it's then going to connect to that provider, and it's going to retrieve the details into the PDX Management Center. So this could take a few moments, and you'll see that little spinner as it's retrieving the details. And once that is complete, it will show you the pension schemes that have come down from your provider. So in this case, there are two different schemes relating to two groups that I have set up with Nest. It'll show the scheme reference and default contributions. And then on the right-hand side, you will need to assign your payroll company to the relevant scheme. Now, in this example, we've only set this up for one company. So you'll see the companies listed, and the one that I'm going to connect to is Pensions Module PDX. So you would go ahead and tick the box for the company that you want to link to. And then you'll see in the section just above, there is an option where you can enter the date of your last successful submission to your pension provider using your previous sending method. So this is really important. If you've been doing it manually up until now, or you've been uploading CSV files, you would need to put the date of the last process date that you did that for, so that when Pensions Data Exchange starts to send the information, it'll take over from after that date. Now, in this example, it's a brand new company. So we're going to leave that date blank. So we haven't sent any submissions to them before. And then we can do the same for any other of our Nest groups that have been pulled down. So you can see we've now got an assigned company for each of those Nest accounts. We can close out of that screen and we can mark that step as done. The second half of the setup process is to sign in once again and update Sage 50 Payroll. And this is where you're going to match a pension scheme in Payroll to the schemes in the Management Center. So when you click Do It Now, you will be prompted to sign in once again. So as before, enter your email address and password, and then enter an authentication code when prompted. So we're going to sign in with the same details that we used to set this up in step 1. And once signed in, it'll then connect to the Management Center and retrieve the data from Sage Pensions Data Exchange. And then it will display the pension schemes that have been retrieved from your provider. And you will then be able to match those schemes to the schemes in your payroll. So to do this, you'd start by selecting a scheme. So I'm starting with the weekly group for my Nest account. And then you can see the schemes in my payroll software on the right-hand side. And we need to select the scheme that matches that group. So actually in this example, we use the same pension scheme in payroll for both monthly and weekly employees. So once I've matched the scheme for the weekly group, I can then follow the exact same steps to match it to the same scheme for monthly. So you can see that they now appear in the schemes you're currently matching box in the bottom left-hand corner. Once you've done that matching, to continue, you would click on to Next. And if you've matched more than one scheme to a single scheme in payroll, you will need to designate one of them as the default scheme. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose here. I would tend to choose the one that has the most employees in it. So I'm setting my weekly pay as the default scheme. I would then click on to Save. You'd be prompted to take a backup. So we always recommend taking a backup when prompted. So this is a backup taken as part of the setup process. So actually I've renamed that in the demo here. And then we can go ahead and click the Finish option. Finally, you would tick the box to mark that step as done. You would click on to Next. It confirms that you're all done and provides a link to our help center. And then when you click on to finish, that then takes you back to your pensions module settings, and you can see the option to set up pensions data exchange has now changed to a link to open the management center. So you can easily log in to that if you need to, and also to get back to the managing your matched schemes. So that's what you'll now see in your pensions module settings. So that is all now set up. We've registered and set up PDX. We've signed in an updated Sage 50 payroll, and we are now ready to start actually using it. So I'll just bring those down, and we'll just jump back to our slides for a quick recap of that process. So a bit of a flow chart just explaining the steps that have been completed as part of that setup process. So within your pensions module settings, you set up pensions data exchange. In the PDX Management Center, you would register your company. You would then add your provider, which involves signing in with your pension provider login details so that the pension scheme details can then be retrieved and added to the Management Center. And then the final step within that Management Center is to assign the payroll company to that pension scheme. We then went in to match our schemes. So we signed in again. We chose which of the pension schemes matches each pension scheme set up in payroll. And once that's all matched, everything is then set up. So we have linked to the instructions there for Nest. Again, we have got a PDX hub on our help center, which will provide more details on the other providers. So next up, we'll take a quick look at actually using pensions data exchange. So first of all, where does this fit into your payroll process? Well, there are actually two halves to pensions data exchange. There is a pre-update task where you are able to import pension updates from your provider. So that could include things like opt-out information or changes to your pension scheme. And then the main function is actually sending the pension data. So that is a post-update task. You would do that towards the end of your payroll process. And that is when you would send over enrollment and contribution details. Now, just to briefly cover importing pension updates, and I don't have a demo for this part of the feature, but an overview of how it works. When you go into import pension updates, it will connect to Pensions Data Exchange. And on the Import Data tab, if there is any information that can be imported with regards to employees who opted out or who are due a refund, they would appear on the Import Data tab. And then that will allow you to import the details directly so that when you go into your pension assessment, they're already marked as opted out and the refund is showing. You'll be able to view the import history if you've done this in the past. And then the final two tabs are to deal with any changes to your scheme. So if there's been an update to the scheme, for example, the contributions have changed, you can import those updates from your provider's portal. Or if, for example, you've created a new group in your Nest portal, you'll be prompted to match that group to a scheme in payroll. So good practice to go into this option at the start of each pay run, just to check if there's anything that needs updating from the provider side. What you can then do once you've completed your payroll is send the pension data. So what we'll do next is we'll give you another video demo of this process. So we'll be picking up from the demo that I've just shown you. This is for a new company that has just taken on employees and is starting to use pensions data exchange. So let me just bring up the next video for you. And we'll talk you through sending pension data. So to put this into context, we're going to show you the payroll process, starting with the pension assessment. This is where you identify employees that need to be enrolled into the scheme, and it also displays the contributions for the current members. We're then going to update our records to confirm those figures, commit them to the employee's history, and then we can move on to sending the pension data. So as you should be aware, the pension assessment is done directly after entering your payments. So you would click on that pension assessment option. We'd strongly recommend you take a backup when prompted, just in case you need to undo anything that happened in the assessment screen. And you can see in this example, this is the very first assessment that we've done for these employees. So we actually have 3 employees that are being auto-enrolled into the pension scheme, and they're also making their first contributions, with the other 2 employees not meeting the criteria at this stage to be enrolled. So because that assessment has been completed, that then adds the pension details to the employee record. But what we now need to do is to complete our pay run by running update records. So once you've done all of your pay slips and other pre-update reports, you'd be able to run the update records wizard. You do get a reminder telling you that you should do a pension assessment first, which we've already done. And then you would work through the update records wizard, which then confirms those figures, and that becomes part of your employee's payment history. And it means that that data can then be included in what you send to your provider. Final step we'll show you, and the main step here is sending the pension data to our provider. So you'll see within the payroll tasks, we have the send pension data option, post update task. When you first go into this, it connects to Sage Pensions Data Exchange, and this can take a little bit of time as it retrieves the latest details. And if we just maximize this screen, what you should then find is that you have a to send tab. And if it's the first time you're sending pension data, you will be prompted to fill in any missing details. Now, what you're seeing here is a list of employees, the 3 employees that are being enrolled, and also details about their pension contributions. So if you look here in the event column, we've got pension contributions, but we also have the same 3 employees who are being enrolled. But currently, they do not have any groups or payment sources assigned to them. So what we would need to do is we would need to assign a group and payment source. So this information comes directly from the PDX Management Center, and you can see it's assigned that group and payment source to both entries for that same employee. Or to save some time, if you want to apply the same group and source to all employees, you can select them using the checkboxes on the left-hand side, and then you can use these options at the bottom to assign the group and source. Now, as soon as you've done that once, they will be automatically assigned to those employees next time you run PDX. So you won't have to go through and choose that group name and payment source every time. Once the groups and sources are assigned, you can see that the submit option becomes active in the bottom right-hand corner. So if you're ready to send the details to the provider, we'd go ahead and click submit. That will then refresh the send pension data screen, and you'll see that you have a pending submission awaiting confirmation. So it tells you when and at what time that submission was started. And it tells you to check back here later for any progress. So if you still happen to have this screen open, you'll see there is a little refresh icon just above the awaiting confirmation tab. So you can check for progress by clicking on that at any point. Now, certainly with Nest, and especially if you're sending enrollment details, it can take up to around an hour and a half for the pension data to be processed by your provider. So in most cases, you would close out of this screen and then you can check back later. And to check on the progress of the submission, you would simply go back in to the send pension data screen. Now, I just want to show you what happens if it hasn't finished processing the files that you've sent. So in this case, it tells you that Pensions Data Exchange is already exporting information. Until this is complete, you can't do another export. And this is usually when you've got enrollments and contributions, as that will take longer to process on the provider's end. So that message pops up pretty quickly if you're checking on the progress, and you'll see awaiting confirmation, again confirms when you originally sent it. Now, once it has been submitted. If you were to go back into send pension data again, perhaps to send the next files to your provider or just to check on the progress, you'll see that it connects to PDX. And again, this is a step that does take a little bit of time. So you need to bear with it while it retrieves the latest data from Pensions Data Exchange. And once it has done that, what you should see is that you have some new entries within your history. Or if there's been an issue with the submission, it would show an error. But lucky for us, we've got history. So we can click on that history tab and you'll be able to expand the submission by clicking that drop down arrow. And you can see there, it's sent through the enrollment information for the 3 employees. And if I just scroll down using the scroll bar on the right, it is also sent through the details of their pension contributions. So that is then available to look back on, almost like an audit trail at any point in the future. So that's the full process. Do your pension assessment first and update records, and then you would send the pension data, and that is then submitted directly to your supported provider. So let's just bring the slides back up to give you a quick recap of what that all does. So it is used to send enrolments and contributions mainly, but if you do have employees that have left the pension scheme and you've processed an opt-out or leave request, it would also send cancellation information to your provider. Once it is sent, obviously you can then view the details within the history tab. And if you do happen to get any errors, this next section might help you to troubleshoot what is going on. So before we move away from PDX, let's just take a look at 4 top troubleshooting tips when it comes to Pensions Data Exchange. So tip number 1 is to check that you've set your process date to the process date that you would like to submit to your provider, as this will determine what pension information is pulled through to send pension data. So if you have an incorrect process date, perhaps a date in the past, that may stop the correct data from showing. And it's one of the common causes of the no data to export message. Second tip, specifically if you're with Nest, is to ensure that you have compatible pension groups set up on your Nest portal. So these need to align to tax periods. So if you pay weekly, you need to choose a tax weekly pay frequency, and monthly you would choose tax monthly. And that ensures that the date of the pay reference period lines up with the pay reference periods that the pensions module uses. Third troubleshooting step is to check the management center if you're getting errors. So from your pensions module settings, you can open the management center from there and log in. And if you do see any errors highlighted, you'll be able to hover over the error message to view what it means and discover your next steps. And if you do happen to see error messages at any point, make a note of when it popped up and the exact wording of the error message. I would then check the help center to see if we have an article, which we will do in most cases, explaining what the problem is and how to resolve it. Or if you can't find an article, if you can't find help that way, get in touch with our support team with those details, and they'll be on hand to troubleshoot and help you resolve that. And I have linked to some common questions as well on your handout. So that's Pensions Data Exchange, and hopefully that will help out a lot of you here that are with a supported pension provider. But let's now focus on other ways that you can send pension data to providers, particularly for those of you that aren't with Nest, People's Pension or Smart Pension. Now, one option just to mention is that if you don't have PDX enabled, you'll have our original send pension data feature. And some customers still use this to produce CSV files for Nest, Now Pensions or the People's Pension. So that is one route, using the send pension data option to create those CSV files. Or if you're seeing this screen, when you go into send pension data and you prefer to use Pensions Data Exchange, you can always get in touch with our support team, who will help you to switch that feature on. So for more information on using the original Send Pension Data option, you can follow the link on the slide. But for those of you who are not with those providers, the good news is that we have created a full suite of reports that have been designed to the exact specification of the various pension providers. So these can be used to help you create CSV files with all of the required details for you to easily then upload to your provider's portal. So they are designed to be ran to Excel, which will create the columns that are required and allow you to add any manual details if required. You can then save those files as CSVs, and then you'll be able to upload them to the provider portal. And we're going to show you that in the demo. Now, to see or to obtain the reports that you will need, you can use our pension checker tool, and we have linked to that. Follow the link here in the handout to access this. So all you would need to do is to confirm your account number and serial number. You would then scroll down to the section Need a CSV report, and that's where you can select your pension provider, and that will then link you off to all the various reports and instructions for using those reports for that specific provider. And that's what I'm going to show you here in this last demo. So I'm just going to bring these slides down again, and I will show you the pensions checker tool. So this is what I've linked to in your handout. It's just a case of entering your account number and serial number, which I've already done, and I've clicked check now. And then if you scroll to the bottom, you'll then see the different pension providers that are available. So I've got, as you can see, comprehensive list here of providers. You would choose your provider and select go. And that will then take you to the available reports for you. So the ones that I've already downloaded, and you save these into the user-defined folder in your software, are the joiners report for Aviva and the payments report. So when you click on it, you've got a download link for the report, it tells you how to copy it in, and then it also explains how to run it. So what I want to show you is a similar process to what you saw in the video using Send Pension Data, but using reports. So what I'll do is I'll run a quick pension assessment for my June pay date. And I'll show you here that this month, I've actually got 3 employees that need to be auto-enrolled. So these 3 that are flagged here on the left-hand side. So 3 new joiners. And I also have a number of employees who have pension contributions that need to be reported. So I run the pension assessment first, which will auto-enroll anyone who is newly eligible. Once I've done all of my pre-update reports, I would run update records. And this is where, if you're using PDX, you would go into Send Pension Data, but because I'm with a different provider, I'm going to run the reports. So I've already copied them into my user-defined folder. These are post-update reports, the ones that I've downloaded. So when I go into reports, I can choose user-defined on the left-hand side, and you'll see I've got my joiners and my payment file reports. So I'll just start with the joiners. And the way that you should run these is by sending them to Excel. So if you choose the option to send report to Excel, here at the top of the screen, it's going to ask you for your criteria values. So with this one being a joiners report, I'm just going to set my criteria to find anyone that joined my pension scheme in this month. So between the 1st and 30th of June. And because I'm running it to Excel, it will output that report in Excel. And you'll see it's already created the column headings. And it's actually populated this file with the details of the 3 employees that have been auto-enrolled. Now, if required, you can add manual information into any of these fields. And then to save the report, as a CSV so that you can upload it to your provider. Just go to File and Save As. Browse to a suitable location. So I've got a folder on my desktop that I'm using for pension data, and set the type to CSV, delimited. So here are some files that I did last month. I'm actually going to create a file for my June 2026 joiners. So I've named it 06 2026 joiners. I've decided to call it, and that is now a CSV file that I can upload to my provider's portal. I would then create my payment files, so details of the contribution. So again, I'm exporting the report to Excel. For this one, I'm going to set my process date, again, to be this month, because I know that's when the contributions were taken. And for this report, I'm just going to specify the pension scheme. It's just my Aviva pension scheme. So it only includes employees who are in that scheme. Just like before, it's going to open up in Excel, already pre-populated with the required information and the column headers. So those are my contributions for the current period. Again, I'm going to do a save as. And I will browse to my pension data folder. And I'm going to call this one 06 2026 payments. That creates my CSV file to upload to the provider's portal. So I did want to give you a quick demo of that process. As I say, we've got reports available for pretty much all of the popular pension providers. If your provider isn't listed in that article, do get in touch with our support team, as we will be able to design one for you. So that there is the pension checker tool. So do check out that link if you need any of the reports. And that has actually brought us to the end of what we're going to show you in today's webinar. Now, we will stick around another 5 minutes just to make sure we've answered your questions in the Q&A. But I'd like to tell you a little bit more about some of the other webinars that are coming up and how you can earn a digital badge as part of our Pensions Discovery webinar series. So this series has been running since earlier this month. We do have a total of 8 sessions. And to qualify for the badge, you need to attend at least 5 different webinars, plus one of the pensions quiz webinars. So hopefully you've been to Pensions the Basics or Pension Calculations, as those ones have now finished. But we do have dates available for the other topics within this series. And we've got the first quiz session actually coming up tomorrow afternoon with a repeat on the 8th of July. So if you qualify for the badge, you will hear from us via email by the end of next month with a link to access your digital badge and to share that however you may want to. So you can sign up for the remaining sessions on our website. Just follow the link on the handout or head to sage.co.uk/webinars. Also want to call out our online help centre. So if you do need help with anything payroll related, or if you want to access that PDX hub, head along to sage.co.uk/help and follow the links for Sage 50 Payroll, or simply click any of the help icons in Sage 50 Payroll and that will take you to the same content. So you can search our knowledge base, really handy if you are looking for an error message that you've had up. You've also got contact details for the support team readily available on there as well. And one other thing to mention is that we do now offer personalized training. So if you would like a dedicated one-to-one session with one of our payroll experts, we can now offer that service. It gives you greater confidence and accuracy, and they are delivered remotely. So convenient for you, saving time and costs. So you can see some of the feedback from people that have used this service before. And if you'd like to inquire, simply scan the QR code, complete your details, and someone will be in touch within the next 48 hours. So as promised, we will stick around just to make sure we've answered any remaining questions in the Q&A. If you'd like to take away the handout don't forget to download that before you leave us. And when you do leave the webinar, we will invite you to complete a survey. So it'd be great if you could share any feedback that you might have on today's session. We do review all of your survey feedback, and we use that to try and keep these webinars the best they can be. So look out for that as you leave. We'll also send you a follow-up email, which will include links to further support and a recording of today's session. For now, though, I'm going to go on to mute just to help Alice out with the questions, and I'll come back to you when we're ready to wrap this up. So I'll speak to you shortly. Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for sending your questions through. I think we're just working on getting the last few answers out to you. But as we are at the end of the allotted time, I'm just going to pop back to wrap things up. So just to let you know that we will send a follow-up email later today, which will include a link to the recording and some useful links to further support and signing up for other webinars. And a quick reminder, if you wouldn't mind completing the survey when you leave us, we'd very much appreciate hearing your feedback. But with that said, on behalf of myself and Alice, thanks so much for joining us today. Try and stay cool out there, and we will look forward to seeing you on some of our other webinars in the near future. But it is goodbye for now.